Hello and welcome to the top 8 of the MCQ at Paprika's Open 9, the MCQ for the Mythic Championship in Barcelona. After 8 rounds of standard, 8 rounds of Swiss, we arrived at the top 8. The top 8 competitors are Marcin Staciwa, Andrzej Bobak, Maciej Dolata, Łukasz Fligel, Szymon Nadolny, Łukasz Klimek, Kacper Sarna and Krzysztof Marek. We are going to see the matchup between the first and the 8th seed. So Marcin Staciwa versus Krzysztof Marek. Marcin was in the top 8 yesterday. He's playing Gorilla Idiots. And Krzysztof Marek was in the feature match area twice today, playing 4-color Dreadhorde.
Yes.
Yes. This should be interesting, and the players are, I think, ready. Marcin is shuffling. As we know from yesterday, he shuffles a lot.
Is it actually the entirety? Is it a top 8 that's Polish in its entirety?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of names that are recognizable for players that are familiar with the Polish MTG scene.
Yes.
Some like people who frequently do place well at tournaments.
And even though we had a lot of competitors from other countries, from Czech Republic, from Slovakia, from Germany, we have only 8 guys from Poland in the top 8. So
Marcin Staciwa is the higher seed, so you can only assume that he's going to choose to be on the play with his Gruul deck, facing off against Krzysztof Marek's 4-color Dreadhorde.
there is no time limit in the top 8, so the players can take as much time as they want. They will not reach extra time or anything, but they are expected to play at a reasonable pace. So we will try to control that a little bit. There are judges near tables where all the top 8 players are, so everything is being taken care of.
Yep, that's a old school Gruul Guildgate for Marcin, followed by a turn to Grove Chamber Guardian. Not the most insane creature to open with, but a fine one.
Meanwhile,
Ooh.
just 2 lands for Krzysztof.
Yeah, Krzysztof misses his second land drop, and
Okay.
Marcin gets to play a turn 3 Legion Warboss on the play. That's going to be pretty unopposed, and that's already putting a lot of pressure on Krzysztof.
Yes,
He might need to rely on the Massacre Girl later in the game to stabilize, because as of now, it's going to be pretty easy to clock, pretty easy for Marcin to clock Krzysztof.
especially that the Jade Light Ranger revealed only lands, so it's just a 2-1.
Yep, does not block too well, although it still blocks the Legion Warboss.
So the confusion here is that Marcin did not exactly see which lands or what cards Krzysztof has revealed from the Jade Light Ranger.
Yep. Notably, the Jade Light also makes Krzysztof draw up to 8, which makes him discard a card. Marcin has a shock at the ready to kill off the Jade Light Ranger to pave the way for his creatures to attack.
And that's going to be a lot of damage because he can adapt the Grove Chamber Guardian as well this turn if he,
Well, if he has no
desires.
play.
Or he can pump his whole team with Domri.
Yep.
That is a decent play.
Domri pairs really well with that.
An extra mana.
Now it's 3, 4, 5.
7 damage.
It is 11 damage if you count the Domri pump,
Oh yeah, sure. With Domri pump.
puts Krzysztof down to 6.
That's a pretty good turn, if you ask me.
Yep. So, you know, even if Christoph has the Massacre Girl, he's not even going to get to that point. The Gruul deck is
Too fast.
Yeah, the Gruul deck is supposedly built in ways that are supposedly preying a little bit on the 4-color Dreadhorde decks. It is not clear-cut who is favored there, because the Wildgrowth Walker package is sometimes really good against the Gruul decks, and it needs to be killed on site, which also costs typically 2 mana. There are no efficient 1 mana removal spells for that gentleman. But, you know, like, if this game Marcin was on the play, Krzysztof stumbled, and there was just like no remorse. He played one spell and fallen behind enough. Legion Warboss just trampled over Krzysztof Marek.
Okay, so the players are going to change things up in the sideboard. Krzysztof Marek, I think that he had some Cry of the Carnariums in his board.
Yeah, he had
So he might
Cry
be
of the
interested.
Carnariums, he had Ritual of Shoot.
Mm-hmm.
So
A
there
copy.
are some options, some sweepers that are able to clear the board on Marcin's side. But you know, Cry of the Carnarium, it's not the most effective sweeper against Gruul. Gruul is known for its creature sizing,
Mm-hmm.
for the creatures that are pretty strong, and you know, Gruul Spellbreaker can be a 4/4. Other creatures can also outsize Cry of the Carnarium pretty handily.
On the other hand, you might be incentivized to sideboard those, since you died to guys that were like 2 toughness. So, but I think that Krzysztof knows a lot more about this than I.
It also depends whether Marcin even intends to use Legion Warboss as a weapon in post-board games. It is a reasonable thing to do, but it's also pretty reasonable to cut it, because again, it's a card that can be somewhat abused. It's a card that's good against Planeswalkers like Teferi, since the leftover token can finish Teferis and Vraskas that have killed off one of your guys. But on the other hand, it does not match up the greatest against Wildgrowth Walker, so you know, there's some interesting tensions. Right here.
So very quick game 1. Players are shuffling up for game 2. And we might... Who are the casters? Well, one of them is pretty well known. It's Canister, MTG.
That's indeed me. A famous MPL personality. And the other one is a person that shares my name, and that's about it.
That's about it. I share the name, and he's the personality. So that's us. How did Band do this tournament? Band was non-existent this tournament.
Yes, it did not do much at all, given that it was not present in the tournament. Only 2 players decided to bring Band midrange to this tournament, not really believing into the strength of the archetype. Yeah, Marcin Stachiva has access to some reasonable cards in his sideboard, but definitely boarding in some Lava Coils. He has 3 copies of Lava Coil, probably getting into there because they are pretty good at answering Wild Growth Walker from Dreadhorde, command the Dreadhorde archetype, since killing it off makes the Dreadhorde strategy unable to summon Wild Growth Walkers from the graveyard, making the namesake card worse if they decide to keep it for the post-board games.
I'm just going to cut in here because we received deck lists for the top 8, and the top 8 archetypes are Gruul, Mono Red, Gruul, Mono Red, Jeskai Walkers, Blue-Green mid-range, let's call it.
The mass manipulation deck.
Yeah, the mass manipulation with Crises, Field Mystics, Esper mid-range, and 4-color Dreadhorde. So those are the archetypes in our top 8.
Indeed. And honestly, it seems like Lava Coil is mostly what Martin is going to want to bring into his deck for the post-board games. Notably, very notably, the 5-drop of choice for Martin Statsiva is not Nissa Hushexi Ward. It's not
Skargan Hellkite.
It is actually 3 copies of Siege Gang Commander. A pretty uncommon choice, but one that pairs up pretty well with Domri Chaosbringer. In actuality, you know, Siege Gang Commander is a card that suffers a lot from Cry of the Carnarium, so that would be a bummer against this exact card. If only Krzysztof had actually had any copies.
Yeah, we were mistaken. He doesn't run any. There are rituals of Sud, though.
Yes. A single ritual of Shoot, a trio of cast downs, and maybe flashing Brontodons with the attempts
blocking
to
duty.
Yeah, on blocking duty, but not entirely sure what strategy is he going to go with.
Preparing for game 2 took almost as long as game 1.
Yeah, it was a quick one.
Funny. So again, a slower start for both players. No plays turn 1, no plays turn 2 for Krzysztof. Let's see what Marcin has. I see a lot of mountain.
Yeah, no 2-drop for Krzysztof again. It's no good luck for hitting those 2 drops. Marcin leading on Thorn Lieutenant. Thorn Lieutenant very nicely matching up against Teferi Time Raveler, being unable to get bounce for value.
Speak of the devil.
Yep. Krzysztof reveals a land, a Teferi, dumps it, and then reveals a land.
And a Legion Warboss.
Yeah.
Hits
So
the board.
Martin decides to keep his war bosses for the post-board games. Smartly attacks with both creatures, so you know either the goblin survives or Fallen
They
Lieutenant
trade.
is going to trade and the goblin survives, or the Lieutenant gets in for 2 damages.
Yep, Vraska cleared off this Legion Warboss, but she is not long for this world, I think.
True.
But she might have something to say about that with that lightning strike in hand. I will be tempted to fire it off at the Jade Light.
Yeah, it's not the
Kill off
most
Vraska.
effective and efficient exchange, since it's pretty, you know, tempo black hole type play, where you are never getting out of that, and you're never actually starting to deal damages to your opponent before they get you start casting Command the Dreadhorde, we see that Krzysztof Marek, I think he has one command in his hand. He did not abandon this plan. He doesn't think that Gruul is aggressive enough to do that, and wisely so. Gruul is a deck that fights on board, definitely, so trying to fight it on that axis is pretty reasonable.
And the follow-up play is Growth Chamber Guardian, so more or less we see the same cards that spelled doom for Krzysztof in the first game.
Well, it's all about tempo. There's like way less pressure for Marcin this game. He's going to shock himself for another green source.
And a Paradise Druid follow-up.
Another Siege Gang Commander. Does he have a 5th land to cast those? I believe that is not the case.
Nah, there is a Gruul Spellbreaker.
Not being able to cast the Siege Gang Commander is pretty damning here for Marcin Staciva, because that means that he starts to fall behind, while Krzysztof is going to start untapping at a healthy life total. And right now he just offers a double block on Growth Guardian. Marcin is going to adapt, fetch an extra one, just to fetch an extra one, so you know it is kind of a waste in a sense, but there's no good tempo plays for Marcin. So he goes with that. Had he had the 5th land, there would be a lot more options. Just like, you know, allowing the Growth Chamber Guardian to trade for both of those would be reasonably nice. If you could have followed with Siege Gang Commander.
Command the Dreadhorde, the play for Krzysztof.
Yep.
No Wild Growth Walker in the yard.
Yeah, there's no Wild Walker, so it actually is going to cost Krzysztof life. Given that Marcin does not have any presence, it might still be enough for Krzysztof to stabilize, but it is somewhat risky.
Yeah, you don't want to go too low with your life total, because the Siege Gang can just burn you out.
Yeah, Siege Gang Commanders and Lightning Strikes are there to punish you if you go too low with your life total, if you get too frisky with your life total. So definitely Krzysztof is keeping that in mind while choosing the creatures to reanimate. He's choosing to pay 10 life, goes to 5, explores twice, gets the Legion Warboss and a Vraska, Queen of the Golari.
Yes, he does have double black for Dreadhorde, since one of the other lands that is underneath the second pile is a Godless Shrine.
Yep.
That's a white-black shock land.
You know, like, that's actually not that great of a situation for Krzysztof, although that synergy is kinda cute. He just sacrificed he just used Vraska, Golgari Queen to sacrifice the Goblin from Legion Warboss to draw an extra card and gain 1 life point. So Marcin had another chance to draw a land for Siege Gang Commander to potentially finish Krzysztof before he stabilizes for good.
Instead,
he did not, but
yeah. Instead, he drew a Growth Chamber Guardian, a creature that you would rather have in your deck to fetch out.
Wasn't it a Llanowar Elf?
Or might have been. Okay. Yep.
A Llanowar Elf is a mana source, albeit unreliable one, probably gonna die to Vraska. Can consider playing a hasty Gruul Spellbreaker and attacking with both. That actually means that Krzysztof is going to take some damage or take an unfavorable trade. And that might be the best plan that Krzysztof has. If you look closely, you can see a Sorin in Krzysztof Marek's hand, which
represents lifelink for all the dudes.
Yes, would make all the dudes
lifelinky, which is a rough place for Marcin. Chooses to go with a okay, chooses to put a counter into his Gruul Spellbreaker, make it into a huge creature. Over trying to deal haste damage right now. That plays straight into Vraska Golgari Queen, but it's hard to avoid that.
Yeah, he was at a point where he kind of had to sacrifice something. And now if Sorin is the follow-up play, then this game might start slipping away.
Yeah, there's also 2 extra life points from just casting Sorin. So the beacons bring Krzysztof to 8. The suiciding goblin is going to gain him life points too. There's a lot of stuff happening. You can actually consider just attacking with everything, in all honesty. Are there any more explore creatures for Sorin to grab in Krzysztof Marek's graveyard?
Can't see right now. We lost vision for a moment. A longer moment. Okay.
Yeah, there's the Mana Dork and J-Light Ranger, so plenty of options. Yeah, the life gaining ability on Interplanar Beacon is insanely strong. That is because it does not count just the planeswalkers that you cast with that beacon, but like just every single one you cast.
Yes.
I guess it would not make that much difference, but you know, that just adds up. And with the explore creatures you tend to draw a lot of lands. Sometimes you just draw 2 or 3 beacons, and then every single planeswalker gains you a handful of life. That's just so strong against aggro decks.
Alright, and that was enough for Marcin to scoop them up. He decides that he will not be able to power through all that life-linking damage.
Exactly.
And back to the sideboards we go. So basically that game went all about Marcin not drawing his 5th land, not drawing the 2nd green source, and
Not sure if that would have been enough. It's, you know, just having a 5th mana on 5/4 CGK commander, it would be very helpful, but still the granularity of the Gruul deck is that there are not many good 1-drops. So like your deck is really good if you're on the play and if you draw Llanowar Elves and you are able to play it on turn 1 and abuse it to the full extent. If your mana curve moves smoothly and you get the mana advantage from Llanowar Elf and maybe Domri and Ark of Bolas, then your deck can look really insane. If you're are on the draw and if you stumble on your lands, or if your removal doesn't match up and you have to spend your lava coils on your opponent's creatures in inconvenient spots, then the deck looks much worse. And I think that's what we have seen here. Notably, Krzysztof even missed his land drop, missed his turn 2 play again this game.
now Marcin is going to be on the play, hoping for a better start than the previous game.
Yeah, Gruul is in a place where it's still somewhat of an aggressive deck. It is like much bigger than a mono red or mono white decks are, because those decks are all about speed, especially the mono white one, maximizing 1-drops and just being cheap and good in the early turns, while Gruul is a tad a bit slower and trying to use the sizing and the haste ability on creatures to try to take over the game this way and put your opponent in tough scenarios because of your threats being good, but that does not match up always. At the same time, it's slightly harder to hate out. gonna take another while until players finally prepare for the game 3. Being the higher seed definitely puts Marcin at an advantage overall in the match, because again, as I said, the Gruul deck probably thrives on being on the play, being the Llanowar Elf abusing deck. Those always enjoy being on the play, especially if your opponent's playing a strategy like Krzysztof S, which does contain literally 0 cards that cost 1 mana. You know, that just makes the that just fundamentally moves the turn where Krzysztof is able to double spell much further than where Marcin is able to double spell when Marcin is on the play.
Guys having fun with the gadget from one of our sponsors, SPC here. It's a single button based on a mechanical keyboard switch. When you press it, it lights up. It's a cool keychain. You can use it as anti-stress toy. It is insane. You should get one.
Let's see if Marcin is happy with his opening hand. Given his facial expression, you would think that he's not, but then he says that he would keep. So maybe he is just that good at not giving away any information with his facial cues. Krzysztof mulligans. I have seen a forest, a Gruul Spellbreaker, a Grove Chamber Guardian, I believe.
Some burn spells, perhaps. Because
hard to take a full peek at the entirety of the hand. I don't think I have seen a Llanowar Elf in Marcin's hand though, which, as I said, was the thing that you always look for the most. Llanowar Elf into a 3-drop creature, either a Gruul Spellbreaker or maybe a Legion Warboss, followed up with a 2-drop paired with a removal spell. That is the insane opening that you are looking for. If you're on the play and like your opponent just plays a Wild Walker on turn 2 while you perform all of those actions, it's a pretty insane amount of advantage that's hard to be stopped.
And unfortunately, it's gonna be a mulligan to 5 for Krzysztof. There was I think only one land, and the rest was Planeswalkers, Duress.
Well, if any decks are playing well off of mulligans to 5, if it's those that play J-Light Rangers, because they can re-mulligan. Draw like extra lands and then you like keep a spell heavy hand and then you like perform some game actions. On the draw, mulligan is also less painful, so of course you would not cross, you would be a fool to cross Krzysztof Marek out just because he is going to start 2 cards lower than Marcin is.
There is a land, there is a Wild Grove Walker, double that up, and another land. So I guess it's keepable.
Yeah, that's a fine hand. Like you know, like Wild Walker into an Explorer, which is all you want to do in the early turns against a Gruul deck. And Marcin does not have that insane Llanowar Elf start that I have spent raving about.
But he picks up Growth Chamber Guardian.
Yeah, that's a 2-drop. It's gonna deal some damages. Krzysztof shocks down to 18, plays a Wild Growth Walker.
Which I imagine Marcin will want to get off the board.
He has a removal spell that probably is going to be the case. Is that a Lightning Strike in his hand?
Yes, there is a Lightning Strike in his hand, but there are also other options. I mean, he could Spell Break into...
It is tempting to play the Gruul Spellbreaker, but then you might fall a little bit behind. And there's like, you don't really want to give Krzysztof windows to rebuild. So he's going to pass with a Lightning Strike. You know, pretty smart, like playing land first, attacking with Growth Chamber Guardian. Then like Krzysztof cannot block the Growth Chamber Guardian anyways. The nice thing is that if Krzysztof does not play an Explore creature, then Marcin can actually choose to spend 3 mana on adapting Growth Chamber Guardian to spend his mana more efficiently. He chooses to remove the Growth Chamber Guardian because I believe he has another Lightning Strike in his hand.
Yes, he does.
That's supremely reasonable then to do that.
He also has a Llanowar Elf, so he can spend all the mana he has access to this turn.
Yep. Not a commonly seen card versus that archetype in Collision Colossus, unless it's Thrash, Threat, and I got bamboozled, but it seems like Collision Colossus to me. Merfolk Branchwalker in response, Marcin is going to strike that. And
Reveals a Jade Light.
Yeah, reveals a Jade Light. Puts it into his graveyard. Now Krzysztof has a 3/2 block. You know, like all of those Wild Growth Walkers slowed Marcin quite a bunch. Like even despite the fact that he removed them, it still took a lot of the clock from Marcin's side. Like had they been less snowbally, Marcin would have been able to deploy a Gruul Spellbreaker on turn 3 and then like have a lot more pressure using his removal spells afterwards, but he was not able to do that because the pressure to deal with Wild Growth Walker is pretty immediate. Otherwise, you are starting to gain life. They start to outsize the red removal, so you really have to do it immediately, making them effective even when they are not really.
A lot of interesting options this turn. He could go for attack with GCG and adapt to get another one out of his deck. He could play the Spellbreaker.
Well, if you're paying attention, then you will see that Krzysztof actually played an untapped Shockland, signalizing a removal spell. So.
Oh! Yeah, I did miss that. It's been a long day.
He drew another Growth Chamber Guardian anyways, and passes with 3 mana up. That's a smart play, because now Krzysztof cannot fire off the removal spell end of turn to gain value from Growth Chamber Guardian. You know, this from denying the Growth Chamber Guardian's ability. Krzysztof takes a lot of damage from his mana base this game though.
Marcin forces the issue, adapting.
Yep. Krzysztof doesn't have any cards left. He reveals another Shockland and keeps a Liliana on top. That would be, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think so far he lost 6 life to his mana base, and that will be 8 total if he shocks again for Liliana, which he probably will because there's no other place left for him, and like he banks on this Liliana to let him survive.
It's kind of awkward because Martin actually cannot just play second creature and pass because then Liliana -2 is devastating. He has Collision, Colossus and Gruul Spellbreaker, which is a way to kill Liliana maybe once she gets played and makes a zombie, but not the most reliable one. And she can draw a lot of cards. Actually, Martin is kind of in a lot of trouble.
Yes, he is indeed. Does he have a Lightning Strike in hand?
Yeah, a Lightning Strike is a reasonable card here. He has the Gruul Spellbreaker and attacks.
Goes for 7 damage.
Yep.
He just wants to burn Krzysztof out.
Yep.
Oh, there was a chump block.
Yeah. Well, it was not a chump block at first.
Yeah,
It is a pretty smart play, heads-up play by Martin. As you have seen, he had an extra Lightning Strike. Krzysztof is going to shock himself down to 3. Since Martin knew about the Shockland, he actually counted that and you know, it was lethal in the end because he was just left at 3 life. The Liliana resolved and was able to sacrifice both of Martin's creatures, and then Martin was able to strike Krzysztof. That was actually pretty nice move from Martin. I liked that play.
Yeah, just revealed the last piece of removal that was necessary, and Marcin finally takes it home. All right. All the cards lined up for Marcin Staciva. So the first seed, the Gruul deck, advances to the semi-final, and after the other side of the bracket gets their semi-finalists ready, then we will come back with coverage of that.
Indeed.
So stick